everyone, it's Andrew, your urban bayman, speaking to you today from the Glen Mill Inn in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. I'm here today to do a presentation, a Zoom presentation for a group of school children in Mississauga in Ontario, and while I was preparing for my little talk, I noticed this bank of photographs. Now guys, I've looked at this 1,000 times, but it's only recently that I've found some interesting information that I thought was worth sharing. One of the things that we often talk about with our guests and point out when we're driving across the island, look, I shouldn't say always, but in the last century, we have always had a paper producing industry here, newsprint. We had two paper mills. One was in Grand Falls, the other was in Corner Brook. They both generated enormous sums of money, huge wealth. And a wealth that you can see. You saw some of my videos earlier about this week about Corner Brook and the infrastructure and the many advantages that we had, a mill town like no other. Well, one of the things that makes this mill so different from the mill in Grand Falls, and it's one that I questioned for many years, is the fact that the mill in Corner Brook is actually built on tidewater. It's built on the ocean front. Right, and when you consider the fact that all of our paper products were being shipped outside of the island, it would only seem to make sense to have your production facility right on the ocean front, right? Ships could come in, pick up the paper, and deliver it to where it was actually going to be used, most often in this case, over in England. The mill in Grand Falls is built in the interior of the island. And I could never understand why, the Grand Falls people didn't seem to catch on like the Corner Brook people did. I mean, Botwood is not that far away. All of the fuels and the oils, everything that would have been delivered for the mill in Grand Falls would have come through Botwood. It would only seem to make sense that they would have put the mill there as well. What I didn't realize until very recently, the mill in Corner Brook was actually supposed to have been built in Deer Lake. It's about 60 miles to the east of here. The reason that it wasn't, right? The reason that they weren't in the same situation as Grand Falls is because of a technological change, right? An advancement that came about as a result of the First World War, the ability to transmit electricity over greater distances. The mill in Grand Falls is inland because it's right next to the powerhouse that was built on the Exploits River in Bishop Falls. They couldn't transmit the electricity very far. It had to be next door. But over the First World War, technology changed, there was advances made, they could boost and transmit the power over a greater distance, and as a result, the delay in the war enabled them to make the changes to their plans. They moved the mill into Corner Brook. And of course, you can only imagine the amount of monies that they would have benefited from, right? Imagine the cost savings. Right, in Grand Falls, they would make the paper and then they would have to ship it by train out to the tidewater. They would have to ship it out to Botwood, load it on a ship, and then send it. Here in Corner Brook, right from the mill, right onto the ship. But recently, a friend explained, and this is what caught my eye here this morning, is the first time I've noticed this photograph since the picture was taken, or since I received that information about the mill. You notice that steam shovel in the corner. That's no normal steam shovel. In fact, it's pretty famous. That steam shovel is the same piece of equipment that was used to build the Panama Canal. We built a canal here as well. It came from Grand Lake to the powerhouse in Deer Lake, right? Big wide canal that comes down and forces the water, and that's where we generate our electricity. They had to wait again. They had another delay. Not only were they delayed by the First World War and the interruption that would have created, but as well because they were waiting for this steam shovel to finish its work in the Panama Canal. Interesting piece of information that I'm glad to share and hope you enjoy.